Hello students. In the previous session we have discussed the part 1 questions. We will begin with the part 2 questions now. So we will discuss 20 questions. So I have already completed up to 20. We will begin with the 21st question. So the 21st question says that the color code for a carbon resistor of resistance 0.28 kilo ohm plus or minus 10%. Okay. So in the 21st question they have given 0.28 kilo ohm. Okay, so plus or minus 10% they have told. Now here kilo ohm they have told, so it is a 0.28. 0.28 I will write it as 28 into 10 raised to minus 2, and kilo ohm it is 10 raised to 3. Okay, plus or minus 10%. Okay, so as here it is 10 raised to minus 2 and 10 raised to 3, so I can write this as 280. Okay, 280 ohm plus or minus 10%. So now you can go write the color code for this. So here 2 indicates red, okay, and 8 indicates gray. So 0. So third one is the multiplier. So it is 28 into 10 raised to 1. So it will be brown. Okay, and 10%. So it is the tolerance. So that is for silver. That's it. So this is the color code for this value of the resistor. So which option you will choose here? Red, gray, brown, silver. So option A will be your answer. Okay. Yes, we'll go to the next one. Yes. So in this question, they have taken the cube here. Each resistance in the given cubical network has a resistance of 1 ohm. Equivalent resistance between A and B is, okay. So they have taken the cube here. So each cube, in the each cube, so the face what they have given is 1 ohm of resistor. So I will just take that one. A very important question, and many times it has been asked. I will just draw that one. So these types of questions are solved by taking the symmetry. Yes. So in these types of thing, okay, the 4 phases what you are taking here. See, this is the point A, and here this is the point B. You are calculating the equivalent resistance between A and B. A and B. So what you will do here, you have to stretch the points A and B. Okay, we are stretching these points A and B. So then, according to Kirchhoff's laws, okay, according to the Kirchhoff's current law, so see here from point A, so 3 currents are divided. Means you are getting from this node, the currents are divided into 3 branches. Okay, current is divided into 3 branches. So you can make it as one symmetry. And here when you are coming to point B, so you have got 3 resistors here. Current is coming from here, here, and here. So it is reaching the point B. Okay. So when you stretch and you take the equivalent circuit of this, so then these 3 resistors are connected in parallel. Okay, these 3 resistors will be connected in parallel. Okay, and here these 3 resistors are connected in parallel. So rest of the resistors in between this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here I have to make a correction here. So this 4 resistor. So total these 6 resistors are connected in parallel. So then if you take the equivalent resistor here, see these 3 are connected in parallel. So you have to take it as 1 by 3. Okay, and here 6 resistors are connected in parallel. So that you will take it as 1 by 6. Okay, and here 3 resistors are connected in parallel. So that you will take it as 1 by 3. Okay, so all this symmetry, these 3 symmetries are connected in series. So therefore, so if you take the LCM and if you calculate that, you will get to 5 by 6 ohm. Okay, so the equivalent resistance between A and B is 5.5 by 6 ohm. So option A should be your answer there. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yes. In this question, okay, in this question, IV characteristic of a copper wire of length L and area of cross section A is shown in the figure. The slope of the curve becomes. So they have given one slope here. Okay. So here in this slope, here they have taken I, current I, and here they have taken voltage V, and the linear slope they have taken. Okay, they have taken the linear slope. So, what is the options they have given? More or less. Okay, when we are changing the value, some of the values. So, how the slope is acting here? That is the question there. So, it is IV. So, from Ohm's law, we know that R is equal to V by I. Okay, R is equal to V by I. Now, when you take the slope of this, this is y-axis and this is x-axis. So here, slope is, okay, slope is I by V. Okay, I by V. So, or I can write this as 1 by R. 1 by R is equal to I by V here. Okay. Now, what is the how the resistance behaves with the dimension that we need? So, the theory says that R is proportional to L upon A. Okay, R is proportional to L upon A. Means resistance of the conductor is directly proportional to the length, and it is inversely proportional to the area. Okay. Now, if area increases, resistance decreases. Okay, resistance decreases. So what the slope says here? So slope is 1 by R. Okay, slope is 1 by R. So if area increases, resistance decreases. So if resistance decreases, what about the slope here? What about the slope? So slope increases. So there in option C, it doesn't suit there. So they have given option C as less if the area of the wire is increased. Okay. Now when you see the option 4, that is D, here what is the option D there? Less if the length of the wire is increased. Okay. Suppose if you increase the length of the wire. Okay. Suppose if you increase the length of the wire. So as it is directly proportional, resistance also increases. Okay. If resistance increases, denominator. Okay. If resistance increases, what about the slope there? Slope decreases. So option D is a suitable answer there. So that is less if the length of the wire is increased. Okay. Yes. Go to the next one. Now, see this question. In this question, in the given figure, the magnetic field at O is. So, some conductor has been given here. So, they have given one circle. I will take that circle here. Okay. So, from here, this is the central point. I will take it as O. Okay. Now, from this point O, they have taken one straight conductor, and here it is one straight conductor. Okay, so let us name this end as C. Okay, and this is a D, and this point as E, this as F. Okay, and this point as G. Got it? Now they have given the direction of the current. This is the direction. Yes, this is the direction of the current. Now what you have to do here? You have to calculate the magnetic field at a point O. We have to calculate the magnetic field at point O. Now, when you are going to calculate the magnetic field here, first you need to calculate how many conductors are present here. See here, this is a straight line C and D. Due to this, some magnetic field is produced here. And you are having another conductor here, that is D, E, F. Due to this, some magnetic field is produced at point O. And you are having FG. Due to this, you are getting some magnetic field on point O. Okay, so 3 magnetic fields are there. So what is the total magnetic field here? So B net is equal to total magnetic field. B net is equal to magnetic field due to DEF plus magnetic field due to, okay, magnetic field due to FG, magnetic field due to FG plus magnetic field due to DC. So all these 3 magnetic fields you have to calculate here. First, I will calculate magnetic field due to DEF. Magnetic field due to DEF. When you are calculating here, see, you are having a circle like structure. You are having the circle like structure. Either you apply the arc method, or you have to apply Ampere circuit law. So if you go for that Ampere circuit law, then what the formula you are getting here? It is mu naught into I divided by 2r. Okay, but it is not complete circle. It is not complete circle. You are taking only 3/4 section of that. See here, you are taking only 3/4 section of that. So it is multiply by 3/4. I will write. Okay, so it will be 3 mu naught I divided by 8r. Okay, then what is the magnetic field due to DC? What is the magnetic field due to DC? So when you see this DC line is lying or joining the point O. Okay, it is joining the point O. So the magnetic field due to that DC will be 0. If you are calculating the magnetic, suppose the point is here or here, okay, here or here, so then the magnetic field will be non-zero. But as it is joining the point O here, the magnetic field due to DC line will be, or DC conductor will be 0. So this is 0. Then magnetic field due to FG, magnetic field due to FG. So when you are taking the magnetic field due to FG, see the direction of the magnetic field. See the direction of the magnetic field. Suppose if you take this direction, okay, suppose if you take this direction, the magnetic field is, see, this is the FBI, force, okay, magnetic field and current. So suppose if you are taking the direction of the current here, magnetic field is acting inside, okay, and here if you are taking, this is the direction of the magnetic field, and this is the direction of the current. So in both the values, magnetic field is acting inside the board, so the direction is same, okay. But if you are, see, if this G point is at infinite distance, then it will join at 90 degree, okay, and this point is here, so it is joining here, so this point will join at infinite degree, 90 degree, which is at infinite distance. And here if you take, this is the angle 0, okay. So what is the magnetic field due to this straight line here? So it is F of BG is equal to mu naught into mu naught I divided by 4 pi r, okay, 4 pi r into sine of theta 1 plus sine of 90 degree, okay. So here that is sine 0, sine theta 1 means sine theta 1 and sine theta 2. So sine theta 1 is 0, okay. So sine theta 2 is 90 degree, okay. So here sine 0 is 0, sine 90 will be 1. So ultimately you are getting the same, that is mu naught I divided by 4 pi r. So what is the total net magnetic field here? So net magnetic field B net is equal to, when you add these two, so it is a 3 mu naught I divided by 8r plus mu naught into I divided by 4 pi r. Okay, just check it out which option suits here. So option 3, when you see, it is 3/8 into mu naught I divided by r plus mu naught into I divided by 4 pi r. So that will be your answer. So this is the total magnetic field due to 3 conductors there. Yes. We will go to the next one. Yes. What is the next question? The magnetic field at the origin due to a current element I into dl placed at a point with a vector position is r. So this is when you see the options, it is clearly you can answer for that. It is Biot-Savart's law. Okay, according to that, option A should be your answer. Biot-Savart's law. It is mu naught into I divided by 4 pi into dl cross r divided by r cube. That should be your answer. Direct question it is. Okay. Yes. See question number 26. We'll go to the next one. A long cylindrical wire of radius r, capital R, carries a uniform current I flowing through it. The variation of magnetic field with distance r from the axis of the wire is shown by. Okay, they have given the graph. So by the conceptual method, you have to answer for this. So what type of wire they have told? It is a cylindrical wire. Okay, cylindrical wire. Suppose you are having one wire here. Okay, suppose you are having one wire which is a charged one, and if you take the Gaussian surface, okay, if you take the Gaussian surface of that, so here this is the Gaussian surface I will take. Okay. Now what is the radius they have given? Radius is capital R. Okay, radius is capital R, but where you are keeping the point there, you are keeping a point P, you are keeping a point P at a distance R, small r, at a distance small r. So here what type of wire they have told? They have told a cylindrical wire. Okay, so as it is cylindrical wire, the magnetic field at the center is 0. Okay, the magnetic field at the center is 0. Okay, and the magnetic field at the surface will be maximum. The magnetic field at the surface will be maximum. So when you start from the center, when you start from the center, the magnetic field is 0. As you are going towards the center, as you are going towards the center, as you are going towards the surface, the magnetic field goes on increases, and when you cross the surface and you are going away, then again the magnetic field goes on decreases. Okay, so if you plot the graph for this, okay, if you plot the graph for this, how you plot that? It is magnetic field versus R, magnetic field versus R. So what type of graph they have given? So this is R, I think. Okay, so yes, this is R, and here they have taken magnetic field. So this is the magnetic field. Now at this point R is equal to 0. Okay, means, so this small r is equal to 0. As the small r is equal to 0, what about the magnetic field at the center? It is 0. It is 0. But as you are increasing r, small r, as you are increasing r, at certain point, the small r is equal to capital R. Okay, small r is equal to capital R. So when it is started from 0, linearly it goes on increases. Okay, linearly it goes on increases, and it will reach certain point where small r is equal to capital R. But when it crosses the surface, due to the atmospheric resistance, there will be a drop in the magnetic field, and that drop may not be a linear, it may be exponential, because we don't know what type of surface surrounding is present outside the conductor. That's why the magnetic field decreases in the exponential form. Okay, it may not be a linear, it will be exponential. So this graph suits for this question. Okay, so check it out. This is option C. Answer will be option C. Yes, go to the next one. Yes, see question number 27. A cyclotron is used to accelerate protons, deuterons, and alpha particles. While exciting under similar conditions, the minimum kinetic energy is gained by. Okay, yes, so they have given here hydrogen, okay, and they have given deuterium, and they have given helium. Now they are asking, while exciting under similar conditions, the minimum kinetic energy is gained by. Okay, now what is the formula for kinetic energy there? What is the formula for kinetic energy? So Ke, kinetic energy, is equal to Q square B square R square by 2m. Okay, now here this when you take this one, this Q, that is charge, is variable. Okay, and here B square magnetic field is same. Okay, R is same, so both are constant here. So only I will take these values, that is K is equal to Q square by m, Q square by m. Now I need charge and mass, so I have got the ratio of charge and mass. Okay, I have got the ratio of charge and mass. When you are taking the charge and mass there, see here, so here I will write charge, and here I will take mass. So how many charges are present here? Only one proton is there, so charge is 1 and mass of the nucleon is 1. So what is the ratio you will get here? Ratio will be 1 by 1. Okay, next, in deuterium, how many charges are there? 1 is there. How many masses? Nucleons are 2, so mass will be 2. What is the ratio you are getting here? It is 1 by 2, so it is 0.5. Okay, next, When you are coming to helium, 2 protons are there, so charges are 2, nucleons are 4, so mass is 4. Okay, so here it is q square by m. What is q? Q is 2. Okay, mass is 4, so what you will get here? 4 by 4, 4 by 4. So as it is 4 by 4, so what is the ratio you are getting here? Again it is 1. Now, when you find the values, see, for deuterium it is less, it is 0.5. So that should be your answer. So that is option C, deuterium. Okay, yes, we'll go to the next one. Yes, what is the next question? So in the next question, a paramagnetic sample shows a net magnetization of 8 ampere per meter. Okay, that I will write. So here m magnetization they have told it is 8 ampere per meter when placed in an external magnetic field of 0.6 T Tesla. Okay, so it is B is equal to 0.6 Tesla at a temperature of 4 Kelvin. Temperature is 4 Kelvin. Okay. Next, when the same sample is placed in an external magnetic field of 0.2 Tesla. So another values they are taking. So I will take this as M1, B1, T1. Okay. So next, I will take it as B2. So B2, how much they have told? So they have told 0.2 Tesla. So it is 0.2 Tesla. Okay, at a temperature of 16 Kelvin. So T2 is equal to 16 Kelvin. Okay, next the magnetization will be, so they are asking you to calculate the magnetization there, so that is M2. They are asking you to calculate M2. Now for the magnetization, what formula we are having? So it is M by T. M is equal to B by T. This is the formula we are having. So I will take this as M1, B1, T1, like that only. For this, it is M2 is equal to B2 by T2. Okay. What we have to calculate here? We have to calculate M2. We have to calculate M2. So it is M2 by M1. M2 by M1 is equal to, you take this first, it is a B2 by T2 into T1 by V1. Okay. And now we need only M2. So I will take M1 here. What is the value of M1? M1 is 8 into, what is B2? B2 is 0.2. B2 is 0.2. What is T2? T2 is 16. Okay. Next, what is T1? T1 is 4. Okay. And what is B1? B1 is 0.6. 0.6. Okay. Now, here 8 ones are, 8 twos are, 2 ones are, 2 twos are, 0.2 ones are, 0.3 are, 0.23 are. Okay. Now what you are getting here? 2 by 3. So it is 2 by 3 ampere per meter. Okay. So that should be your answer. What is your answer? M2 is equal to 2 by 3 ampere per meter. Option B is the suitable answer there. Okay. Yes. Yes. So we'll go to the next one. The ratio of magnetic field at the center of a current carrying circular coil to its magnetic moment is X. If the current and the radius both are doubled, the new ratio will become. Okay. Now here we apply the Ampere circuit law. Okay. So magnetic field formula will be B is equal to mu naught into I divided by 4 pi r. That should be your for Ampere circuital it is mu naught I divided by 2r. Okay, 2r. So next is they have given moment, magnetic moment. So magnetic moment will be m is equal to pi r square into I. Okay, pi r square into I. So they have asked you to calculate the ratio of that. New values they have given. Okay, when the current and radius are doubled, they are asking you to calculate the new ratio there. So first we will check it out. What is the ratio you will get here? So B by M is equal to B by M is equal to, so it is a mu naught into I divided by 2R into, if you take this one, then it will be 1 divided by pi R square into I. Okay, here I get cancelled. Okay, I get cancelled. So what you are getting here, it is mu naught into 2 pi R and R square, it is R cube. Okay, this ratio itself is X. This ratio itself is X. Now, in the second case, what they have told, current and radius is doubled. Okay, if we take the current, again the current will get cancelled. So I will take only radius here. So here I will take the ratio as B dash M dash. Okay, B dash M dash, which is equal to mu naught into 2 pi. In place of R, it is doubled. So it is a 2R whole square. It is doubled. Okay. So 2R cube it is. Now, what you will get here? Mu naught divided by 2 pi R cube, okay, into, so it is 2 cube, means it is 8. Okay, into 8 it is. Now, what is the value of mu naught by 2 pi R cube? It is X. So what is the answer you will get here? It is X divided by 8. That's it. This should be your answer. That is X by 8. Option D should be your answer. Yes, see the next one. In a paramagnet or permanent, okay, in a permanent magnet at room temperature, okay, permanent magnet means it is a ferromagnetic material. Okay, as it is ferromagnetic material, so if you increase the temperature, the domains present in the material, they will be aligned. Okay, domain structure is present in ferromagnetic materials. So see the options. Magnetic moment of each molecule is 0. No. The individual molecules have non-zero magnetic moment, which are all perfectly aligned. They have told 0, so it is not possible. Domains are partially aligned. Okay, so already it is room temperature, so all the domains are getting some energy there, so there will be no partial alignment there. So that's why all the option D, if you see, domains are all perfectly aligned. So at a room temperature, all the domains present in the material, that is permanent magnet, that is called a ferromagnetic material, all the domains will be aligned perfectly. So that should be your answer. So you can choose the option D there. Okay, yes, we'll go to the next one, 31st question. A rod of length, I will write the given values there. A rod of length 2 meter, length is 2 meter, slides with a speed of 5 meter per second. So V is equal to 5 meter per second on a rectangular conducting frame as shown in figure. There exists a uniform magnetic field of B is equal to 0.04 Tesla. Okay, perpendicular to the plane of the figure. If the resistance of the rod is 3 ohm, R is equal to 3 ohm, the current through the rod is, so this concept comes under motional EMF. Okay, motional EMF. So here L they have given, V they have given, B they have given, and R they have given. What is the formula you are having to calculate the motional EMF? So that is E is equal to BLV. E is equal to BLV. Okay, now when you see the given values here, B is given, okay, L is given, okay, and V is given. So, but they are asking you to calculate what? Current. They are asking you to calculate current. Okay, now one hint they have given, that is R. R they have given. We know Ohm's law. E is equal to I into R. E is equal to I into R is equal to BLV. Okay, what we need is I. So I is equal to BLV divided by R. B is how much? 0.04 Tesla. Length is 2 meter. Okay, and V is 5 meter per second, and R is 3. Okay, so if you calculate this, so this is 2 into 5. Okay, 2 into 5, 10. So 10, this will be 0.4. Okay, this will be 0.4. So 0.4 divided by 3, it should be 1.33 something. So if you take the decimal points there, it should be, when you see the options there, okay, when you see the options, it should be 1.33 in the digits. So one, they have given 1.33 ampere. It is not possible because it is not 4 by 3, it is 0.4 by 3. Okay, so obviously you have to go for 133 milliampere. That should be your answer. So I is equal to 133 milliampere. This should be your answer. Okay. Yes. We'll go to the next one. Yes. What is our next question? 32nd question. Uh, the current in the coil of inductance 0.2 Henry. Inductance L is equal to 0.2 Henry. Changes from 5 ampere to 2 ampere. Changes from 5 ampere to 2 ampere. Current is changing here in 0.5 second. So T they have given, it is 0.5 second. Okay, the magnitude of the average induced EMF in the coil is, very straight answer question it is, that we know self inductance concept. In the self inductance, induced EMF is equal to L into di by dt. This is the formula we are having. Okay, what is the value of L? The value of L is 0.2. Okay, di is a 5 minus 2, change in current, so it is 5 minus 2, so it is 3. 3 divided by 0.5. Okay, so 3 divided by 0.5 is 6. 6 into 0.2, so it will be 1.2 volt. This should be your answer. Okay, option B should be your answer. Yes. Okay, we'll go to the next one. 33, question number 33. Yes, see question number 33. So this is series LCR circuit. Okay, in the question they have given the potential across the capacitor, that is VC is equal to 30 volt. VC is equal to 30 volt and VL is equal to 110 volt and VR is equal to 60 volt. Okay, a series LCR circuit. Now the RMS value of the applied voltage is, you need to calculate the RMS value of that. First, peak voltage, if you want to calculate, what is the formula we are having? VP, peak voltage is equal to square root of VR square plus VL minus VC whole square. Okay, yes, what is the value of VR? VR is 60. Okay, so it is 60 square, or you can write it as 60 square. Okay, plus VL, it is 110 minus 30 whole square. Now it is root of 60 square, it is 3600 plus 110 minus 30. How much you are getting? It is 80 square, it is 6400. Okay, so it is a root of 10,000, means I can write it as 100 square. So what is VP is equal to? VP is equal to, it is 100 volt. It is peak voltage. But what they have asked you in question, they have asked you RMS. Okay, so VRMS is equal to VP by root 2. VP by root 2. So 100 divided by root 2. Okay, 100 divided by root 2. So 100 divided by root 2, directly you can calculate. Okay, so you will get around 70.7 volts, or root 2, you can write it as a 2 into 2, root 2 into root 2, then also you can calculate that. Okay, so the answer should be your C, that is 70.7 volt. Okay, yes, go to the next one. The power factor of RL circuit is 1 by root 3. If the inductive reactance is 2 ohm, the value of resistance is. Yes. So again, this is the alternating current question. What is the power factor they have given? Power factor, how you write the power factor? It is cos phi. See, cos phi they have given, it is 1 by root 3. and inductive reactance they have given, it is XL. XL is equal to 2 ohm they have given. XL is equal to 2 ohm. Now they are asking you to calculate the value of resistance is, means they are asking you to calculate R. When you see the theory part, so we are having the formula, that is a tan phi is equal to XL upon R. XL upon R. Now see, XL we are having, we know XL, but we don't know what is the value of R. So by taking the tan phi, we can calculate the value of R there. So if you take the triangle here, so this will be hypotenuse, okay, and here it is opposite, and this is the adjacent. Okay, now cos phi they have given, it is 1 by root 3. Okay, it is adjacent upon hypotenuse. So adjacent is 1, hypotenuse is root 3. But what I need is tan phi. What is tan phi? Tan phi is opposite upon adjacent. Okay, opposite upon adjacent. So if you want to calculate that, it is root 3 is equal to 1 square plus x square. Okay, 1 square plus x square. So this is root 3 square. So it will be 3 plus 1. So if you take that, how much you will get here? It will be root 2. So what is tan phi? So tan phi is equal to root 2 by 1. Tan phi is equal to root 2 by 1. So now here, if you equate these two, XL by R is equal to root 2 by 1. So what I need is R. Okay, so if you take R is equal to XL by R is equal to XL by root 2. Okay, what is XL? XL already they have given, it is 2. So it is 2 divided by root 2. 2 divided by root 2. So I can write this as root 2 into root 2 divided by root 2. So root 2 get cancelled. So what you are left with is R is equal to root 2 ohm. This should be your answer. R is equal to root 2 ohm. So what you are getting there is option B. That's it. So that is the solution for that question. Yes, we'll go to the next one. See the next question. Yes, this is pretty simple one. In the given circuit, the resonant frequency is, okay, they have given one circuit. In that circuit, they have given the value of L. So value of L is 0.5 millihenry. Okay, value of L is 0.5 millihenry, and value of C is 20 microfarad. 20 microfarad. Okay, what you have to calculate? Resonant frequency. Very simple problem. Okay, resonant frequency, what is the formula? F naught is equal to 1 divided by 2 pi root LC. Okay, and now put the values here. It is 1 divided by 2 pi into root L. L is 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 3 into C is 20 into 10 raised to minus 6 it is. Okay, and now 1 by 2 pi. So 2 pi is 6.284 into, so here 0.5 into 20. Okay, 0.5 into 20, you will get a 10 here. So already 10 raised to minus 9 is there. So root of 10 raised to minus 8, if you bring it outside, it will be 10 raised to 4. It will be 10 raised to 4. So it is 1 by 6.284. If you take that, it will be around 1592, means 0.1592 into 10 raised to this is minus. Okay, this is minus. If you take it to the numerator, so it will be 10 raised to 4. So that will be 1592 hertz. So that is the resonating frequency what we are getting in this problem. So this is called tank circuit. By using this tank circuit, we produce the frequencies. So the resonant frequency what you are getting here is 1592 hertz. Yes, we'll go to the next one. Yes, see the next one. A light beam of intensity 20 watt per centimeter square is incident normally on a perfectly reflecting surface of sides 25 centimeter into 15 centimeter. So here they have told intensity I they have given. So I is a 20 watt per centimeter square. Okay, per centimeter square. And sides area they have given, it is 25 centimeter into 15 centimeter. Okay, 15 centimeter. The momentum imparted to the surface by the light per second. So momentum you have to calculate. Okay, so what is the momentum you have to calculate? So here for the momentum we are having the formula P is equal to 2E by C. Okay, momentum P is equal to 2E by C. This is the formula. But we know the value of C, that is 3 into 10 raised to 8, but we don't know the value of E. Okay, so we can use another formula here, that is I is equal to E by A. I is equal to E by A. So from here we get the value of E, so that is E is equal to I into A. Okay, E is equal to I into A. So just to substitute that value here, so it is 2 into 2 I into A divided by C. So it is 2 into, what is the value of I? It is 20. What is the value of A? It is 25 into 15 divided by C. It is 3 into 10 raised to 8. So now 3 ones are 3 5s are 15. Okay. Now here 25 into 20. Okay. So it is 500. 500 into 2. It is 1000. 1000 into 5. It is 5000. So 5000 into 10 raised to minus 8 it is. Okay, 10 raised to minus 8. So if you see the options there, okay, what you will write there? 10 raised to minus 8. So see the options there, what you will write there? 5 into 10 raised to minus 5. That should be your answer. 5 into 10 raised to minus 5. So which is your suitable answer? Option? It is C. Option C is suitable there. Yes, we'll go to the next problem. Yes, an object approaches a convergent lens from the left of the lens with a uniform speed 5 meter per second and stops at the focus. The image, so it is related to ray optics. Object approaches a convergent lens. So we will take the convergent lens here. Okay. So object is coming from the left of that. This is the principal axis. So here, if I take the lens here, say for example, this is the focus here. Okay, and here this is the focus. Suppose the object is at infinite distance. Okay, suppose the object is at infinite distance. Where you find the image, you will find the image at the focus. Okay, suppose if you are at infinite distance, where we find the image? Image we will be found at focus. Suppose the image is coming near and near. Okay, image is coming near and near, and it is reaching to F. I mean, object is coming and reaching the point 2F. So then whatever the image will shift to 2F. See, first object is coming, object was at infinite distance. Then where the image is formed at F. Okay. Now the object is coming near and near, and it is reaching 2F. So then the image is formed at 2F. So still further, if the object is moving towards the lens, then whatever the image is going away. See, image is going away. So you can say that image moves, I can write image moves away from the lens. Image moves away from the lens. So now when you see the options there, see the fourth option, what it is saying? Moves towards the lens. So option D get cancelled there. Okay, that is not suitable as an answer because they have given moves towards, but here it is moving away. Okay, but this is the image distance and this is the object distance. If we plot the graph, between image distance and object distance here, suppose this is your u object distance, and here if I take v here, so what is happening? When the image is coming near and near to the lens, the image is going away from the lens. So what type of graph you will get according to the theory? So that will be exponential graph you will get. Okay, we'll get the exponential graph here. Now the question comes, see, in option A, B, C, in all the three options they have given moves away from. But the question comes uniform speed or uniform acceleration or non-uniform acceleration. Okay, so that's why we have to go through with the graph here. Suppose if I make some fractions or segments into this u, early the image is here, okay, so v is here. So if you take the segment, only the difference is smaller. Okay, a small difference we are getting. If I take the segment here and if I take the segment here, so the difference is bit larger compared to the previous one. Now if I take the point here and if I take the point here, again the distance is very large. So what is happening here with respect to time? If you take the changes in u and v, it is not uniform at all. It is not uniform. Okay, so see here, there is a change here, so I can say that A is not a suitable answer because they have given moves away from the lens with a uniform speed. It is not moving with uniform speed, so option A you delete it. Okay, next coming to B and C. What is acceleration? Acceleration is change in velocity upon time. Okay, change in velocity upon time. If you want to say it as a uniform acceleration, there should be a uniform change in the velocity with respect to time. But when you see the graph here, there is no uniform change in velocity with respect to time. So that's why I will go for the option. It is a non-uniform acceleration. So option C is the suitable answer there. Okay, so you can say that it moves away from the lens with a non-uniform acceleration. That is the answer. Yes, we'll go to the next one. The refracting angle of prism is A and refractive index of material of prism is cot A by 2. The angle of minimum deviation is, okay, angle of minimum deviation is, refractive index they have given, so that is n is equal to, we are having the formula, so n of angle of minimum deviation formula, n of sine of A plus dm by 2, okay, divided by sine of A by 2. This is the formula we are having. Okay, now what are the refractive index they have given? Refractive index is given by cot A by 2. What is that? It is cot A by 2. So for my simplicity, what we can do here is cot, I can write it as cos of A by 2 divided by sine of A by 2, okay, which is equal to sine of A plus dm by 2 divided by sine of A by 2. Okay, now sine A by 2 get cancelled. Next, cos of A by 2, how we can write in terms of sine? So it is sine of 90 minus A by 2, which is equal to sine of A plus dm by 2. Okay, now here sine get cancel each other. Okay, so take this to cross multiply, so then it is 180 minus, so when you take this 2 here, 2 get cancelled, so you will left with A with equal to A plus dm. Okay, now you take this A to the LHS, so then it is 180 minus 2A equal to dm. That's it, this is our answer. What is the angle of minimum deviation dm there? So dm is equal to 180 minus 2A. So which is your suitable answer, option there? Option D. Just mark it. Okay. Yes, we'll go to the next one. Yes, the following figure shows a beam of light converging at point P. When a concave lens of focal length 16 centimeter is introduced in the path of beam at a place shown by dotted line, such that OP becomes the axis of the lens, the beam converges at a distance x from the lens. The value of x will be equal to. Yes, I will just draw that diagram. So three lines are converging here. Okay, three lines are converging at some point. So this is the incident ray. Okay, and here they have taken one line. So from here to here they have given 12 centimeter. Okay, this is the point, they have given it as P. Okay, this is the case. Now, according to this diagram, what is that 12 centimeter there? So 12 centimeter is object distance. So I will take it as U. U is equal to 12 centimeter. Okay, U is equal to 12 centimeter. Now, what they are doing? They are placing one concave lens at this line. So this is the concave lens here. This is the concave lens. Now, according to the theory of concave lens, what it does, it diverges the rays. See, these rays are coming from infinite distance, okay, and they are meeting at point P. Now, when you are placing the concave lens here, so due to that, the rays will diverge. Okay, the rays will diverge. So, because of that, now they don't meet at point P. Because of the divergence, the image distance is moved further, means it will go beyond the P here. So somewhere around here you may get, okay, for example, somewhere around here you may get that point. So this will be the new image distance, that is our x. Okay, so actually they are asking you to calculate this distance x. Now how you calculate that? Now image distance, object distance they have given 12 centimeter. As they have mentioned it as concave lens, so the focal length I will take it as a minus 16 centimeter. Okay, as they have told it as concave, so according to the rule I have taken it as minus 16. Now what is the formula? So 1 by f is equal to 1 by v minus 1 by u. Okay, 1 by v minus 1 by u. Now what is f? F is minus 16. Put it is equal to 1 by v minus 1 by 12. So 1 by v is equal to minus 1 by minus 16 okay, plus 1 by 12. So if you take the LCM, it is 1 by v is equal to LCM will be 48. Okay, so here it is a minus 3, this is plus 4. 16 3s are 12 4s are. So what you are getting here is 1 by 48. So 1 by v is equal to 1 by 48. Then what is image distance v? V is equal to 48 centimeter. That's it. This is your answer. V is equal to 48 centimeter. Option C is the answer. Option D is the answer, 48 centimeter. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Yes. Now, three Polaroid sheets. I will just refer that question. Okay. So what it is saying? Three Polaroid sheets P1, P2 and P3 are kept parallel to each other such that the angle between pass axis of P1 and P2 is 45 degree and that between P2 and P3 is 45 degree. If unpolarized beam of light of intensity 128 watt per meter square is incident on P1, what is the intensity of light coming out at P3? Okay. Yes. How many sheets they have told? 3 sheets. So this is P1. This is P2. Yes, this is P3. Okay. Incident unpolarized light, I will mention it as I0. Okay. The light which is coming out from P1, I will take it as I1. Here it is I2. And here I will take it as I3. Okay. Now, according to the rule, according to the concept, what is I1 here? I1 is equal to I0 by 2, half of that. Okay. I1 is equal to I0 by 2. That you have to take. Okay. Now, but what is I2? I2 is equal to I2 is equal to, for this incident light is I1. But what is I1? What is I0 they have given? It is 128, right? Okay, so they have given it as 128 watt per meter square. 128 divided by 2. So this is 64. Okay, I1 you have got 64. Now I2 is equal to what? According to Malus law, what it is? I1 into cos square theta. Cos square theta. Okay, what is I1? I1 is 64 into what is the angle between P1 and P2? They have given 45 degree. Okay, so what is cos 45? 1 by root 2. 1 by root 2 square. It is 1 by 2. Okay, it is 1 by 2. So how much you are getting? It is 32. Got it? Once again, I1 into cos square theta. I1 value is 64. I have taken cos square theta. The angle between P1 and P2 they have given 45 degree. So cos 45 is 1 by root 2. 1 by root 2 square. It is 1 by 2. So it is 32. Next, I3 is equal to, again according to Malus law, I2 into cos square theta. Okay. Now what is I2? I2 we have got 32. 32 into, again, what is the angle between P2 and P3? It is 45 degree. Okay, write it. Again, it is cos square theta. So it is 1 by 2. So you will get 16 watt per meter square. So what is I3? I3 is equal to 16 watt per meter square. So option C should be your answer. Okay. Yes. So our 40 questions are over now. So in the part 1 and part 2, we have covered 20 questions. Okay. So rest of the 20 questions we will discuss in the next session. Okay. So thank you for watching. And we'll meet in the next session. End meeting.